Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about how to delete items in Atrium Library Management System that have been lost longer than 3 years. So what I've done here is pull up the written directions right beside a window where we're going to see these directions in action to just kind of show you what to expect as you're going through this process. So the first thing to know is you should complete any inventory that you're planning to do this year before you launch into this process, and that's because some of the items that are marked lost in your catalog may actually be on your shelf, and you might find them through the course of inventory. So if you're planning to do inventory this year, do that first and then come back to these directions. If you're ready to go ahead and mark those items lost, you can follow along. So kind of the story behind this is for years and years we have routinely deleted items that have been lost longer than 3 years from our catalogs. We have not done that in the past few years because in 2013, when we converted from InfoCenter over to Atrium, through the data conversion, any lost item that was hanging around in InfoCenter was given a lost date of 2013. So we weren't sure in the past several years when those items were actually lost. Were they lost in 2013, or did they just get that conversion date stamped on them? So we let those hang around for a few more years just to be safe. But we have had Atrium long enough now to where we're certain that we have items that have been lost at least 3 years hanging around in most people's catalogs. So that's why we want to get into this now and start cleaning those items out. So you might have lost items because you know that a particular student lost something. Maybe they've already paid for it. Maybe they still owe for it, but you've marked it lost because you know that a student has shared with you that they're not going to be able to return that book. You may have items lost because as you were doing inventory, there were certain things that were supposed to be on the shelves, but they're not, so they weren't scanned. You may have items lost because you maybe skipped a step in the discard process and didn't fully delete them, and so they're marked in there as lost. So there are a lot of ways that items show up as lost in your catalog. Most of the time it's because a particular patron has misplaced something and has told you about it, and you go in there and physically mark it. Now, if you've got some of these items, for instance, a child checked out something in August and never returned it, and he's told you it's lost, if you still have that just as an overdue item on a patron's record instead of having that marked lost, you'll need to go ahead and mark it lost before you continue on in this process. Everything that's lost needs to be accurately identified in order to let all of our filters and reports catch the items we need to actually delete. So if you know you've got a few items that are lost but aren't officially marked that way, you'll need to go back and do that before you move on. Okay, so here's how it goes. The first thing we need to do is identify all of our long lost items, and that's what I'm calling those items that have been gone for 3 years or more. We want to do those in bulk. We don't want to have to go through and look at individual items. We want to catch them all at one time. So to do that, we go over to Reports, and we go to Other Reports. And right here we have a list of lost items report, which is exactly what we need. When we click it, it's going to automatically run. However, it's not got the parameters that we need in this initial run, so we're going to edit this report to get it pared down to the exact items we're looking for. So here we have, in this example, 28 results. I'm going to edit this report, and I'm going to enter some date filters. So I'm going to go back to 2012. You probably don't have anything marked in 2012 in your database, but I want to go back that far just to catch anything that may have squeezed by with that date. So holding was marked lost from, I'm going to set December of 2012. That was just prior to the conversion. Okay, and I'm going to make that the first. And then we're going to enter as the ending date May 31st, 2014. So we're not going back 3 years we're not catching a group of books that has been lost for 3 years. We're simply going back 3 years from today. So it's 2017, and we're going to go back to 2014. So we are right on target. I'm going to mark May 31st just to make sure we catch everybody who may have come in, after school was out to do a few last bookkeeping items. And we're going to generate the report. Okay, so I have 26 items in this report. This is a printable report that you can print out or save as a PDF to your desktop. And this is a good thing to save. That way, if anyone ever comes back, this probably won't happen very frequently, but just on the outside chance, if someone comes back and says, hey, what about that blah, blah, blah book? Whatever happened to it? You'll have a record of exactly where it went and why it was deleted. Okay, so right now we just have a list of what should be deleted. We're going to actually go in and delete them through a different process. So you'll print this out or save it, and then we'll get back into a different mode in Atrium. So to delete things, we're going to go to Catalog, and we are going to delete holdings. And we're going to filter to tell Atrium which items to delete. So I'm going to go to holding status equals lost. Now this is why we had to accurately mark everything lost back a few steps ago. If something's not marked lost, it's not going to be captured in this filter. So we've got anything that was marked lost, and we need to do the same date range that we just put in. So we're going to do a little finagling down here. We're going to change these fields to date fields. And so date marked lost, and it says we're going to use is greater than or equal to as the qualifier. Oh, it's already set there for me. And then we're going to change this date field back to that December 1, 2002, just so we get an identical set of data. Now, we're going to change this second row to date marked lost as well. We're going to get items that were marked in between these two dates. So date marked lost, change the qualifier to is less than or equal to. Okay, it's already there for me. And I'm going to change this date over to that May 31, 2014. So this was 3 years ago and anything before that. Okay. We are going to just check our filter lost in between these dates. Got it. And yep, we got 26 items again. You should see an identical report to the one you pulled up just a few minutes ago to print or save. Now, these are all in the queue. They're waiting to be deleted. You can decide whether or not you want to just delete the holding, which means I just want this one item deleted, or you can decide if all the holdings are deleted, also delete the bibliographic. So if this is your last copy of, let's say, Hamlet, if you want to delete the bib record as well, you can tell it to do so in this second radio button. If you want to preserve the bib record because maybe you're planning to order a different copy of Hamlet, a replacement copy, then you can do delete holding only. That's up to you. So you're going to hit delete queued records. and then it will process, and it will tell you how many successes and how many failures you've had. I'm not going to process these because I'm not really sure that this is a demonstration database, and I'm not really sure what these items are tied to, so I don't really want to alter those right now. But when you're doing this, you will hit delete cube records and you'll see a process happen. Now, in a perfect world, you'll see all of your items that were marked lost deleted, and poof, you're done. However, that may not be the case. So sometimes you're going to get messages like these. These are failed deletes. These didn't delete the way you had hoped they would. And this happens pretty often. This happens when the item you tried to delete was associated with an unpaid fine, either a late fee or you assess the cost of the book and the patron owes the replacement cost. If you have old patrons lingering in your database, maybe you're an elementary school librarian and a child lost a book in first grade and you thought, well, maybe they'll turn it in second grade, and they didn't, and well, maybe they'll turn it in third grade and they didn't, and maybe fourth grade, maybe fifth grade, and then they went on to middle school and still never turned in that book. They're going to be sitting in your database with that book still attached. You can't delete the patron, you can't delete the item until you reconcile those two things. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is how to reconcile. So if you get messages that say, hey, I couldn't delete these items because they were attached to patrons, here's what you do. So the reason that happens is really for two scenarios. One is patrons have items marked lost, or patrons have items still checked out to them that were never marked lost, but they've accrued an overdue fine. And this is mainly for middle and high schools. So that's why you would have these patrons still hanging on to those items in your database. Now, if you have successfully performed the patron purge at the beginning of each school year, you can skip this next step, because this is exactly what happens in the patron purge. If you're not sure, or if your patron purge has always gone a little shakily, then you can go through this process. What you would need to do is you would need to go through these directions right here. You'd go to, let me pull this up over here, patrons, and delete patrons. You're not really going to delete them. You're just using this screen as a reporting area. You would filter for patrons who have not had any action since May 31st, 2014. Now, why we're doing that is because these patrons have not been active in our libraries. These are probably patrons who are gone. Maybe they've graduated up to the next level. Maybe they've moved. Now you want to double check enrollment, because it could just be a child who never visits your library. But chances are, through what we're about to do, we're going to catch those kids who have disappeared. They vanished from your school. So what you would do is patrons who have not had action since, we're going to go back to that 2014 date. That was 3 years ago. And we're going to generate the list. All right, so here we have people who have not interacted with the library. Okay. Any of these patrons that are in withdrawn, you're going to delete them, okay? You can't delete them, or you can delete them from here. So you're going to say, okay, I'm going to delete these guys. Aha. And it says, nope, we deleted 8 of them, but these 3 right here cannot be deleted because they still have items checked out, or maybe they have an item that's lost, or it might say they owe a fee or a fine. So what you have to do then is you have to go into these specific records. So I'm going to copy paste this barcode number, and I am going to look up patron. All right, and it says, yep, this person has 2 items that were due in 2012. I don't know what has happened to these, but what I would do is I would go ahead and select, mark them lost, and it says, are you sure you want to do that? These are the ones you want to do. I'm going to mark them lost. I'm going to omit the fines. I'm just going to waive the fines. I don't know what happened to these books. That was a long time ago. I'm not going to get them back, and I'm going to mark them. Okay, so that was successful. Now I should be able to go back to that delete patron screen, and I should be able to delete that specific patron. So I'm just going to paste in her barcode again. I'm going to add it to the queue. Then I'm going to say, yep, these. That time it deleted her because I took the items off and waived the fines. If I didn't waive the fines, it would give me another message that said, nope, can't delete her. She still owes you money. So you have to be very thorough about getting all of those little things taken off of their records. Okay. The rest of these directions just go a little bit more clearly step by step through the process that I just went through. So if that's a little fuzzy to you, you can go back and go through these bullets and make sure you've crossed all those T's and dotted all those I's. At the very end of the process, you're going to want to check your work. You should be able to run a report of items that were lost before June 1st, 2014. That's the day after that May 31st, 2014 date we've been using. So this is going to capture everything prior to that. So we're going to get the items we've dealt with today, and you should get 0 items. If you've deleted all of them, there should be nothing marked lost before June 1st, 2014. And you can do that by following those directions here. If this is a little confusing, go back, watch it again, read through the directions very carefully. Kind of the big takeaway that you need to know is that we need to keep our databases clean from old items because they'll affect our collection counts, they'll affect our collection analyses, they'll affect your OPAC if you have your OPAC settings set to show lost items in the OPAC. Children will look for an item and see one that says, whatever the title of the book is, and they'll say, oh my gosh, there's a book. Even though it might say lost out there, they often ignore that and they get so excited and then frustrated because they can't find it. So this helps us keep our items clean, and then kind of a side effect of that is that we get to also keep up with our patrons. So, again, if you need to rewatch or reread the instructions, feel free to do so, and I hope you have a successful long lost items purge.